library budgets. To best serve our Nebraska students, to encourage literacy, that should not happen. So please keep Rule 10 as it is to support media and technology resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Terry, if you want to come forward, and then Jamie, you're next.
I'm Terri Cunningham-Swanson, and I'm from Plattsmouth, Nebraska. Let's just cut to the chase. The books we're talking about not only meet the common sense definition, but also the legal definition of obscenity. Every one of you sitting on this board understand that to be true. And if any of you don't, let me read Nebraska Statute 2880-808, the parts that pertain to this. It shall be unlawful for a person knowingly to sell, deliver, distribute, display for sale, or to provide to a minor, or knowingly possess with the intent to sell, deliver, distribute, display for sale, or provide to a minor. Section B, any book, pamphlet, magazine, printed material, however produced, or sound recording which contains any material enumerated in subdivision 1A of this section, or explicitly detailed verbal descriptions or narrative accounts of sexual excitement, sexual conduct, or sadomasochistic abuse of a predominantly prurient, shameful, and morbid nature, and which, taken as a whole, is harmful to minors. Any person who violates this section shall be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. That is the law. I am speaking for parents and grandparents across the entire state of Nebraska when I stand here and I look you in the eye and I say, how the crap are we even here? How the crap is this even a question? I'm sorry, but the time for niceties is over, and the time has come to maybe start flipping some tables and maybe flipping some board seats. Of course, our library should not contain obscene content. It should not contain graphic descriptions of naked body parts, depictions of violent rape, and as the law that I just read stated, detailed verbal descriptions or narrative accounts of sexual excitement, sexual content, or sadomasochistic abuse. Parents, if you doubt that our state board's current standards would allow this content in your school, do what I did and check your library. The middle school in my small town of Plattsmouth is grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. Students as young as 10 years old are in the middle school. It's in that library that I found the book Neanderthal Opens the Door to the Universe by Preston Norton. That book includes illegal use of drugs and alcohol, violence, suicide, hate, and as well as extremely offensive sexual content that the book itself describes as, quote, Puritan-style dominatrix BDSM pseudo-porno, end quote. Again, this book is available to 10-year-olds. God help us. Exposing children to sexualized content is damaging. We know this. It is proven and well documented. I don't care what CBS News says. This is a proven fact. Yet our education system clings to the lies of perverted men like Alfred Kinsey and John Money, whose research included the rape and sexual assault of children, even babies, to justify their inaccurate and frankly disgusting theories of human sexuality to the detriment of every child. Study after study shows that the harm of exposing minors to sexualized content, and it includes physical harm, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual harm. Please pass these changes for the sake of our children.
Thank you, Terry. Jamie, if you want to come forward. Amber, you're after that.
Hi, my name is Jamie Bonk-o-wish. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I'm the parent of 2 children, one in public school and one in private school. I'm here to oppose Kirk's attempt to change the library, media, and technology section on Rule 10. Kirk's proposed Rule 10 changes are evidence that he is too radical to be on the State Board of Education. Political ideology should not be an issue for board membership, but he has repeatedly shown that his views are extreme and unsafe for Nebraska's children. His primary change to the Rule 10 document is removing the regulations that ensure that libraries have books, certified librarians, and access to educational databases. These things are necessary for children to learn how to find facts, verify research, and safely navigate the internet. In place, Kirk has offered no suggestions for how libraries should stay resourced and instead makes a redundant porn ban. There is no porn in school libraries, but there are well-educated, trained, and caring adults whose job it is to supervise students and teach literacy skills. Kirk is offering revisions based on the idea that kids are accessing porn in school libraries rather than where they actually are, which is while unsupervised on the internet at home or on their tiny computers that they carry in their pockets every day. Kirk's sexualization of children's books and denial of the internet's risks are disturbing. If this weren't evidence enough that Penner is too radical to be allowed to make any decisions for my children and other people's children, his support and promotion of the propaganda movie The Mind Polluters is. This movie claims that teachers in government schools are grooming children for sex. This is outrage politics at its finest. Yet Kirk had no problem with spreading this propaganda all over Nebraska, mainly showing it in churches. I would like the people listening to really think about what Kirk's intentions are with changes to Rule 10. Kirk, the hypocrisy of you running your campaign on the parental rights and local control are not lost with me. Yet you are trying to take those same rights that you campaigned on from us parents. I can tell you that a lot of parents like myself are tired of having extremist groups like Moms for Liberty, Nebraskans for Founders Values, and Protect Nebraska Children on and running their school boards. An example of this is in January of just this past year, parents and residents of Plattsmouth schools recalled Terri Cunningham-Swanson because of her extremist beliefs. We are also tired of you retweeting dangerous propaganda by libs of TikTok on your social media platforms and you meeting with Oklahoma Superintendent Ryan Walters in August to discuss policy. You believe that you're some sort of patriot simply by using your constitutional right to free speech. Yet you are an adult man with a considerable political backing sitting at one of the highest seats of power in education. And you have chosen your free speech to hurt teachers and minor students who you should be protecting. And you also target LGBTQ plus students who also happen to be the most vulnerable in our society. This is setting a dangerous precedent for our State Board of Education. Once again, your beliefs are your beliefs. Your religion is your religion. Preach that to your own kids and your grandkids. My kids are not yours. I trust the teachers and administrators in my children's schools first, and I absolutely have no trust in you.
Thank you, Jamie. Amber, if you'd like to come forward, and Dennis, you'll be next.
I come before you today. I believe it's been over a year now since coming forward, and I see that things have not changed, but I want to say thank you to board members of Elizabeth Tegtmeier, Sherry Jones, and Kirk Penner, who are the only ones that have fought to protect the innocence in areas of our children. Many of you, there's a new face here as the election commissioner. Law, you're all accountable to law just as we are, and I have to tell you, it's different in legislation when you're proposing amendments versus proposing state statute. When I'm going to read, Terri Swanson had already read 28808, and I want to be very clear because we do have a judicial branch, and when there are signs of abuse and any areas of pedophilia, the judges do have CPS services can come in and remove those children from the homes. We do need to tighten up our parental rights legislation here, but what I'm here to talk about today pertaining to 28808 is this. You cannot cut out existing law from another law. Who decides that? That goes to court or courts. Which brings accountability, because the reality of this and what we are facing is truly a preying upon our children through the education system and through our tax dollars. I would argue strongly that 28808 gives direction to how laws are to be upheld. Also, those on the state board, with the exception of Penner, Jones, and Tegtmeier, because they didn't violate the wording or provide to a minor. Parents could look at this, that state board members who connected with groups, people going against 28808 could face charges. What does this mean? It means they have opened themselves to a class 1 misdemeanor, which one could face maximum not more than 1 year imprisonment, $1,000 fine or both. Minimum, none. But let's go deeper. Those bringing these unlawful, obscene literature materials, they too could face penalty for aiding to give to minors. Now, with reports across the state of such materials, questions become, are the professional staff in all of this exercising lawless activities, meaning those who are participating? Now, within some cases across the state, multiple copies of such materials have been found. The question remains, has this now become a part of curriculums in Nebraska schools? Again, under 28808, and I want to be clear, so without the health standards that were tried to pass as a guise on us, you could actually be exercising in these ways and doing those very things and what you tried to deceive the people on, and you don't have to have and pass the health standards with the way right now that this is literature and materials have been discovered throughout the state of Nebraska and Nebraska schools, public school system. Under 28808, how many Nebraska education professionals could face a Class 1 misdemeanor? And some may rebuttal, but I will say, as well as others, there's a reason we have a judicial branch. But before you today will be a solution to include parents and restore local control for each school district by changing a rule that Member Penner will present before you today. The choice is yours.
Thank you, Amber.
What is the purpose of a public school? To empower students to learn and think critically, to prepare them for their future, or is it to explore trauma and practice mental health? These books are just the tip of the iceberg of education's efforts to become mental health facilities. And that is not what Nebraska parents either expect of public education or want to fund with their hard-earned dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Judy, you're next. And then Chris after that.
Good morning. I'm not going to say my name again because I'm scared of Kirk Penner and the people that follow him on Twitter coming at me. If it's okay with all the humans in this room, I'd like to pause for a moment in silence and honor Oklahoma student Nex Benedict. Friends, I'm standing here today in fear. I am afraid of weirdos like Kirk Penner, Sherry Jones, and Elizabeth Tegtmeier. I fear these Bible-based weirdos being the ones making decisions for Nebraska children's teachers and librarians. How come none of you are discussing the violence, incest, and rape found in your Bible? Today, I don't have a choice. I got to cast my fears aside and turn on my mad mommy voice. I am mad as HE double hockey sticks. Kirk Penner works to hurt kids and teachers. I don't feel safe near you. I don't feel safe near you, Kirk Penner. Do you understand that? You make this state less safe.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Jesse McGrath, and I'm from Omaha. I am a proud public school graduate of a Nebraska high school and the University of Nebraska at Lincoln for both my undergraduate and my law degree. And in reading through this proposal, I'm left kind of in a quandary because I've had people here tell me that there is pornography in our schools, but yet I've heard them say that that is illegal. So if there is pornography in our schools, why have there not been arrests? Why have there not been people taken into custody that are doing this? That is the fact that there is not pornography in our schools. Of course, it should be illegal. Pornography is illegal in school. So I think you should think very long and very hard about the constitutional nature of what this is trying to do, and realize that there are less restrictive means and that you should not be banning things that you may personally disagree with because of your religious views when there are other people who have a different view from that. You don't get to legislate your hate. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Merlin is next, and Lou after that.
Excuse me. Scott Thomas, Fremont, Nebraska. Thank you, Kirk Penner, for bringing this. I came here, I didn't know who Kirk Penner was, so I had to learn all that on the spot. But let it kind of wash over you. You feel that? You feel kind of dulled by this, having listened to 2 hours of this type of testimony, sexual predations towards children. That's the insular cortex. It's a disgust mechanism. And that's what causes you to kind of tune out, distance yourself from what you're hearing. It's like it kills a piece of your soul, and you'll never get it back. The 2 hours, not the soul, I mean. But, you know, I recognize this issue is not without a human cost. And I had somebody approach me outside. I went to see our state senator, Cal, speak. And I had somebody approach me outside of the meeting, or outside of the speech, and say, you know, why are these people against us? And I said, nobody's against you. These people want what's best for you. And he said, but they don't know me. And I think that's the core issue right there, is we know these things aren't open to subjective interpretation. We know what things are good for the long-term success of children. It's an objective issue, not a subjective one. And so I'm the U.S. IDHR Regional Director, so the U.S. Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights. I'm the Regional Director for the state of Nebraska. And I run Village in Progress. We do 1948 UDHR casework exclusively. That's all we do. So I came last May to our city council meeting because our pastor's wife had brought an issue with one of these books that was in our city libraries. And there's a couple different things that you have to understand about this. Article 25 of the 1948 UDHR entitles children to special protections by government. Article 26 entitles them to proper education. So there are prerequisites by international law required here. And I went and I spoke and I said, what I see here in our society that's occurring is there was a book that preceded this by 30 years called Do I Have a Daddy? And on the back of the book it says, you know, Johnny falls down at school and Lisa teases him and says, you don't have a daddy, you don't have a daddy. And he goes home and he asks his mother, do I have a daddy? And she says, you, like all other little boys, have a daddy. But being a daddy is a hard job, and a lot of daddies give up and they run away, and it's okay for you to not have a daddy because your mommy loves you and cover the spread. I think that is a precursor to this book that we're seeing now in our society, or these books that are preying on children. It's something required for those predations is that you remove the protective factors from the child's life. And that would be the biological parents. We know that. So across the street, not across the street, across the city, we got 49 senators, right? In our Nebraska legislature, in our unicameral, they're not all experts in these particular areas. So they take legislative committee testimony from different experts in different areas. That's part of the 1948 UDHR 2, that's Article 28. And entitles you to a functional form of government. And so we don't have that right now. Somebody called into question, why aren't there arrests being made? I called for that last May at our school, at our city council meeting. And I could name the 3 cops that were in the room. Nobody was being arrested. So we don't have a competent, functional form of government if that's the case. And we all agree that these books aren't appropriate for children, and that you wouldn't give them to your children. So I filed last Thursday for my candidacy for the Nebraska Legislative District 15 so that we can restore responsibility to our government.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Thomas, I have one question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned a title, and I didn't write down
Yes, ma'am.
fast enough who you were
The
for.
United States Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights. I'm the regional director for the state of Nebraska. I'm also the founder and director of Village in Progress. and my mother, the other principal director here, she's in the audience, 30 years in public education? 50.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to hear about that later. But I was told of that. Thank you for having me.
Is that all? Yeah, okay. Thank you to everyone who came and testified today. We do have submitted written public comment.
And so I can bring it as policy and have it shot down. I can bring it as a rule change and have it and do what we're doing here today. I can bring objective ideas, FCC ideas here. We can get these added. And the stuff we still have TV here. One TV guy here. He can't show some of that stuff on TV tonight, but we can see it in our libraries. So it's just simple stuff. And so the process, I'm trying to find out a process to get sexually explicit material out of our schools. There might not be one. And to me, that's concerning. And so that was what I was trying. So I appreciate the conversation today. But there are concrete ideas in that PowerPoint, which I'll be handing out after this to everybody so they have it, including I have audience copies as well. So you can see exactly what I said, exactly what I referenced. So there's no misquoting or misinformation or anything of that nature. But ultimately, my goal is to get it back to the Rules Committee, do the rule process, and ultimately the Attorney General's office will tell us whether it's legal or not, and then the governor will or will not sign it. But we need to get 10 off his desk right away. Thank you.
I guess I have to disagree with you, Kirk, that there isn't a process for getting books out of our libraries that our parents are not happy with, because every single school district has a school board. Those school board members can be voted out if they aren't responding in the way that the parents want them to. But what we're finding in Nebraska is that those school board members are defending the books that are in the library because they understand what the student populations are, and they don't want to discriminate against any students. They want to respect the needs of every single student. In Nebraska, we are finding that those candidates that are running on book bans are not getting elected, and they are getting recalled. And I just think that it's a disservice to Nebraska that we keep talking about this when there are clear processes in place. If people don't like the books in their local library for their school, they have very clear steps that they can take. And it isn't up to us to make those specific decisions.
Process has been an issue, so a vote yes to me is that we go through the proper channels, so I can appreciate that. There's some comments that I just need to respond to, because it's been said a couple times. No child needs access to sexually explicit materials. No child needs access. And I appreciate data, but I don't need data to tell me that sexually explicit material should not be in our schools. So I do appreciate data. I think, unfortunately, porn doesn't disappear if you read the whole book. I wish it did, but it doesn't disappear if you read the whole book. And I think superintendents are waiting for some guidance from the State Board of Education. And those are just, and this is very important to me, difficult topics can be taught, and I appreciate that. You know, issues of prejudice and poverty and homelessness, they can be taught without using sexually explicit books, and I welcome that. And that's scattered all those thoughts, but that's how I work. So.
Are there any board members who would like to have a final comment on the motion? I move to direct the commissioner to propose revisions to Rule 10 related to the content of library media and technology resources and the required number of library media and technology resources after the current revisions are adopted by the governor. That's the motion. Are there any more comments on this motion? to read the motion one more time. So the motion that we are discussing and is to direct the commissioner to propose revisions to Rule 10 related to the content of library media and technology resources and the required number of library media and technology resources after the current revisions are adopted by the governor. Will the recording secretary please call the roll?
Morrison? No. Tegtmeier?
Yes.
Koch-Johns?
No.
Neary?
No.
Fricke? No. Jones?
Yes.
Penner?
Yes.
Gubbels?
No.
3 yes, 5 no's.
The votes